The mind magnifies what it rehearses. The mind magnifies what it rehearses. The verse today is whatever is true, think about such things. Philippians 4:8 says, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, think about such things. One more time, Philippians 4:8 says, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, think about such things. So today we want to say, God, help us pay attention to what I repeatedly think about. And that's the key right there, what I repeatedly think about. Because sometimes if I'm repeatedly thinking about what we've been talking about the last few days with rumination and things that could go wrong and spending our time hurting ourselves, if we repeatedly think about that, I guess we don't want to pay attention to that. But if we're thinking about what God says, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, that's what we should repeatedly think about, right? The mind naturally enlarges whatever it rehearses. Thoughts that receive repeated attention often feel larger, stronger, and more important over time. Example, a person worries about one upcoming challenge and replays it through the day. A person who worries about one upcoming challenge and replays it through the day. By evening, the challenge feels enormous, like I'm not going to be able to tackle this. Another person spends time focusing on truth, possibilities, and solutions. The challenge remains, but feels more manageable. So the story that's inside of this is I have noticed that some problems grew larger with my mind long before they grew larger in reality. The more attention I gave, the more powerful they seemed. Sometimes I was clarifying a problem that became much bigger in my thoughts. That it actually bigger in my thoughts than it actually was. God began teaching me that my attention was acting like a magnifying glass. Whatever I repeated, rehearsed became larger in my awareness. Fear grew when I rehearsed fear. Gratitude grew when I rehearsed gratitude. And faith grew when I rehearsed truth. Eventually, I realized I was helping determine what became emotionally large in my life, but what I repeatedly focused on. Sorry about that. I thought I forgot to shut the door. So I've noticed the problem grew larger long before they grew larger in reality. So when we think about this, they long before they grew larger in reality, the more attention I gave them, the more powerful they seemed. Sometimes I was carrying a problem that had become much bigger in my thoughts than it actually was. And you think about that, what problem that was maybe this little problem that all of a sudden became, I got to get it done. I have to get it done. If I don't get it done, my life's going to be over. Did that ever happen to you? Well, God began teaching me that attention was acting like a magnifying glass. And I know I read this and I'm doing it again because I want to make sure that I do it justice, right? The God began teaching me that I was acting like a magnifying glass. Whatever I repeatedly rehearsed became larger. How many of the things that you go through in a day become larger and larger in your awareness? Fear grew when I rehearsed fear. Gratitude grew when I rehearsed gratitude. Faith grew when I rehearsed truth. Eventually, I realized that I was helping determine what became emotionally large in my life, but what I repeatedly focused on. What's happening in our mind right here is the brain strengthens information that receives repeated attention through the process called long-term this is potentiation. They are the neural pathways that are activated repeatedly become more efficient and more influential. This is why recurring thoughts often feel increasingly convincing and emotionally powerful over time. Attention acts as reinforcement for mental patterns. So that long-term potentiation, those are pathways that are actually activated and they repeatedly become more efficient and influential. So the more that we continue to say it, they work on making sure that they work for you. However, if it's the wrong stuff, if we go back here, if it's not whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, and whatever is admirable, then you get stuck in this loop of this is where we just start believing that these problems are insurmountable. And then we get to the point that we believe that we can achieve them. And then all of a sudden we believe that we are less or we're not enough as a result. So it's got to be really careful when we say that affirmation, that we guard our minds, that we guard our hearts. It is so important that we really think about, what are we letting into our minds? What are we letting into our thoughts? What are we letting into our being on a daily basis? That is why when we talk about we start our day without the world's noises, we start our day without paying attention to what else is going on, and starting our day from within instead of consuming, we're commanding our day. It's sad that I was talking to a lady named Stacy Crawford, and Stacy Crawford was the news, but she's the one. She was a producer in newsrooms back with ABC and CBS back in the day, and she was the one who created the Saturday morning news. And before then, it was just cartoons. When you got up in the morning on Saturday morning, you just watch Super Friends and Slapsticks and whatever we watched. But she created, somewhere in the 80s and the 90s, that she created morning news on Saturdays. So now people are listening to news on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday, on Saturday, and sometimes on Sunday when they first give up. And we have a world that's so much bigger that's bringing in all of its problems, not just from your local community, but from around the world. And then we wonder why we're so stressed during the day. We wonder why that we ruminate on so many things that are problems. We wonder why the problems of the world becomes our problems, or we don't think we can solve our problems because the world can't solve it. And so I would submit to you, if you have to watch the news, maybe only watch it once a day. My suggestion is don't watch it at all, because 90% of it is all sensationalism, where they just try to get you to tell you that the world is worse off, so you don't feel worse off about your life. It's a hypnotic societal mechanism that literally hypnotizes us into thinking our lives are not that bad by bombarding us with the news. Well, I digressed a little bit. But today when we do this, what you repeatedly rehearse often becomes what you experience most strongly. What you repeatedly rehearse becomes what you experience most strongly. What thought have you been magnifying lately? Notice one recurring thought today, and that's whether it's making your life stronger or weaker. One recurring thought today. Ask yourself, is it making you stronger or weaker? If you're saying the Lord is my strength, then obviously that's making you stronger. If you say I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, that's obviously making you stronger. But what is that recurring thought that you might be saying? I can't do this. I'm not enough. Oh, make sure you know that. Father, help me to focus on what is true and life-giving. Teach me to magnify faith instead of fear and truth instead of worry. Guide my attention toward what strengthens my relationships with you. Amen. May your mind magnify truth, your heart magnify faith, and your life reflect God's goodness. So the question today is, do you think repeated thoughts become more powerful? And the answer is yes. What thought have you been rehearsing most lately? What thought have you been rehearsing most lately? And how can focusing on truth change the emotional outcome? So I'm going to put these in the comments for you today. Boom, in the comments. And now as we transition into our gratitude session,